Is the commerce skill in Starfield worth it, or have we all been misled? Obviously, if you get this skill, you clearly want to be getting 25% more credits from everything you sell, from spaceships to weapons. And it all sounds great until you realize how it's actually calculated. So today we're going to be looking at the maths behind this skill and looking at why you may want to avoid it entirely. First though, let's talk about the fastest way to level up the commerce skill, because it's actually really quick to do. To level up from rank 1 to 4, you must buy or sell a total of 250 unique items, which does sound like a lot. But if, for example, you just travel to Alpha Centauri and then go to planet Jameson and land on New Atlantis and travel to the Lodge, which is Constellation's base here in New Atlantis, you can just turn the place upside down. And by that I mean just loot absolutely everything. Start picking up all the random miscellaneous objects that decorate the area. Every single book that has different variants, all of the notepads, the different folder types, the pens, the playing cards, the coffee mugs, and especially the uniquely named notes or letters which you get from all the quests you do. They actually all have 0 weight as well. Just take everything that's not nailed down, since it doesn't count as stealing. And obviously you can do this at pretty much every location. I'm just using the Lodge as an example to demonstrate how much clutter there is in Bethesda games. After 5 minutes of doing this, I now have over 100 random unique items that I can sell. But before we do sell anything, make sure you put 1 point in your commerce skill, and you can start the first challenge by selling 25 unique items. If you head over to the general merchant store in New Atlantis, you can force them to take all these random items that you've just picked up, and they'll even pay you for it. You also have the option on the bottom right to sell items from your ship if you've been stockpiling miscellaneous items on your travels. It doesn't actually matter if any of the items have 0 value, it's still going to count towards leveling up your skill. Just make sure that once you've sold 25 items, you go and put another skill point into rank 2 of the commerce skill, and then you have a new challenge to sell 75 more unique items. But an even faster way to do this is to go to any weapons vendor or general merchants and just navigate to the ammo tab. Then you can simply buy one of every single ammo type they have to level up. Just like selling, buying also levels up your skill as well. This also works for resources as well. Literally just buy all of the cheap items like 1 iron and 1 nickel to level up as quickly as possible. And if you were wondering, no, it doesn't count if you buy an item and then you sell it back to the vendor. Each item only counts as 1 towards leveling up the skill, whether you brought or sold it. And don't worry if the vendor runs out of credits to buy your stuff. Even if you're giving them the items for free, it still counts towards leveling up your commerce skill. I'm not going to question the logic behind this, but another way to max out your commerce skill is like this. As you can see, I currently have 223 items. So what I can do is simply sell everything I own. Absolutely everything, even if it's stuff you don't want to sell, because we can just buy it back in a moment. So as quickly as you can, just carry on selling everything you have. And now we've hit the goal already of selling 250 unique items, and we did it all at the same vendor. So when you're done, just go to the buyback tab and you can buy all of your items back for the exact same price that you sold them for. So you don't even make a loss, and you max out your commerce skill in the process. Also, when you buy your items back, you don't reverse your progress or anything like that. It still counts. But now we've reached the max rank of the commerce skill, we need to discuss how good this skill actually is. So drop a like on the video if you have found it helpful so far, and now I'm going to ruin your day with maths. So let me explain why the commerce skill isn't as good as it looks. We're going to compare having no commerce skill to having the maxed out version. In this example, we have an item worth 10,000 credits that we want to sell. But in Starfield, whether you're selling a weapon, armor, contraband, or anything, when you actually come to sell the item, you're only going to be able to sell it for 12.5% of its total value. So that means that this item we have that's worth 10,000 credits is only worth 1,250 credits when we sell it, which is 12.5% of 10,000 credits. Every vendor in the game will offer you the exact same price on every item too. But since we have rank 4 of the commerce skill, we get to sell items for 25% more. Well, no, actually not quite. What they don't tell you is that it's only 25% more of the tiny 12.5% sale price. So with the maxed out commerce skill, instead of selling for 1,250 credits, we're going to be selling for 1,560 credits. Wow, that's only an extra 310 credits. You can see the equation for calculating the cost at the bottom here. But to summarize, rank 4 in the commerce skill increases your selling price from 12.5% of the item's total value to 15.6%. So you're basically spending 4 skill points for a 3.1% increase in credits when you sell an item. I mean, this alone makes the commerce skill a terrible investment and definitely not worth getting. And that's besides the fact that later in the game, you'll find it much harder to find vendors that have enough credits to actually buy all of the stuff you're selling anyway, which forces you to resort to waiting in chairs to reset the vendor, and it's just not very fun gameplay. But that is another issue entirely. But seriously, why don't Bethesda just quadruple the amount of credits that vendors have? Is it really going to ruin the single player game experience? I think it's a better alternative than players watching the wait screen. So should you get the commerce skill? Well, there is actually an argument to be made for the other part of the skill's effect, which allows you to buy items for 25% less than their total value. Obviously, ships and ship parts can cost tens of thousands of credits, and if you just want to buy a pre-built ship, you can spend 600,000 credits on it. So getting a 25% discount on that is massive. And therefore, if you're planning on building ships or buying them, the commerce skill is actually pretty useful still. It's also obviously going to help out on the very long game by just reducing the cost of buying ammo over time, and it's going to make some of the unique weapons you can purchase from vendors 25% cheaper. Now, speaking of those unique weapons that vendors sell, if you want to find a whole list of every unique weapon you can find from the vendors, check out the link in the description below. We have an entire list of all the weapons, all their stats and everything linked down below in the description. But now you understand how the commerce skill actually works, would you still say it's worth 4 skill points or not?